Aum Namo Narayanaya, dear sisters, brothers, and loving children. It is with immeasurable reverence and joy, on behalf of the officials of the Ramakrishna Center of South Africa, Phoenix, Johannesburg Sub-Center, that we extend a very warm and cordial welcome to this evening's online seminar commemorating the birth anniversary of the Patriot Saint of India, Swami Vivekananda, and the National Youth Day celebrations on this, the 12th of January. In honor of Swami Vivekananda, a decision was taken by the Government of India in 1984 to annually celebrate the birthday of Swami Vivekananda as National Youth Day. The philosophy of Swami Vivekananda and the ideals for which he lived and worked are a great source of inspiration for the youth. National Youth Day is observed all over the world at schools and colleges with processions, speeches, musical renditions, youth conventions, and seminars. Swami Vivekananda's life, lectures, and writings derive their inspiration from India's ancient spiritual traditions. Swami Vivekananda's spiritual training, guidance, and inspiration was obtained directly from the great master Paramahamsa Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother Sri Sharda Devi. Under the guidance of these revered saints, Swami Vivekananda's life became a beacon of hope to the youth and a source of inspiration. He continues to motivate youth organizations, study circles, as well as welfare and community service projects that uplift mankind around the world. As such, it is entirely fitting that the Government of India has declared this, the birthday of Swami Vivekananda, as National Youth Day. Swami Vivekananda once said, "Give me 100 energetic young men and I shall transform India." His faith in the youth never wavered, and this is demonstrated in his profound statement where he said, "My faith is in the younger generation, modern generation. Out of them will come my workers." When one reflects on this statement, it is then entirely fitting that this evening's seminar includes papers and performances delivered by 5 dynamic youth leaders who've been inspired by the teachings of Swami Vivekananda. Tonight's program will include 4 papers on the following topics: a youth's perspective on karma yoga as explained by Swami Vivekananda, hygiene and general health, practical considerations in the current pandemic underpinned by Swami Vivekananda's ideals, moral and ethical considerations in the current pandemic from a legal perspective underpinned by Swami Vivekananda's ideals, economic considerations of COVID-19 and ways to cope with financial distress based on Swami Vivekananda's teachings. We will then have a musical rendition of beatboxing by the internationally acclaimed artist Mr. Shivraj Natraj. And finally, the recognition ceremony for the students of the Hinduism for Children's classes, where the next generation of young leaders are educated and inspired by Swami Vivekananda's teachings. We will now commence with this evening's seminar. Our first speaker is Miss Kirthi Durgapersad, a grade 10 student at Kuro. Miss Durgapersad is a devotee of Sri Ramakrishna and is actively involved in various aspects of the work conducted by the Johannesburg Subcenter, particularly the Hinduism for Children's classes. Ms. Durgapersad will be presenting a paper entitled A Youth's Perspective on Karma Yoga, as explained by Swami Vivekananda.
Om Namaha Shri Yati Rajaya Vivekananda Surye Sachit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. Salutations to that King of Renouncers and Controller of Passions, the sage Vivekananda, who is Sachitananda, existence, knowledge, and bliss absolute, itself the spiritual preceptor and remover of distress. Revered Swami Swatma Ramanandaji Maharaj, dear devotees, Aum Namo Narayanaya. It is with pleasure that I speak to you on this auspicious day of Swami Vivekananda's birthday. Swami Vivekananda is one of India's greatest spiritual and social leaders. He saw hope for the future in every child and believed it was muscles of iron and nerves of steel they could bring about social change. Swamiji himself personified the eternal energy of the youth and a restless quest of truth. In South Africa, young people continue to face serious challenges, and key amongst them is the problem of unemployment. These are people with hopes, dreams, and capabilities who could be contributing to their communities and country. The situation of these youth have been made worse by the outbreak of the coronavirus, which is threatening their livelihoods and survival. Given the history of the struggle in South Africa, we know that nothing is impossible. It is possible to turn the tide against equality, injustice, and unemployment. It is now that the teachings of our revered Swami Vivekananda should be revitalized by the young people and become a driving force that changes society. In 1987, Swami Vivekananda founded the Ramakrishna mission. Its ideals are based on Karma Yoga and the teaching of his guru, Sri Ramakrishna. Swami Vivekananda had a supreme understanding of Karma Yoga. Swami Vivekananda had the most precious gems to share on several topics. I have picked a few words on karma and its effect on character from the book The Complete Works of Swami Vivekananda. The word karma is derived from the Sanskrit word kri, which means to do. All actions is karma. Karma Yoga has often been called the yoga of cause and effect, or the yoga of sowing and reaping, but it is really the yoga of action. Any work, any action, any thought that produces an effect is called karma. Karma Yoga is a mental discipline that allows a person to carry out his or her duties as a service to the entire world, as a part of enlightenment. In studying the great characters that the world has produced, in most cases it would be found that it was misery that taught more than happiness. It was poverty that taught more than wealth. It was setbacks and disappointments that brought out the inner fire more than praise. We say Newton discovered gravity. Was it sitting anywhere in the corner waiting for him? It was in his own mind that the ideas originated. The eternal world simply provided the suggestion to study his own mind. The falling of an apple gave the suggestion to Newton, which he studied. He rearranged all the previous links of thought and discovered a new link among them, which he called the law of gravity. It was not the apple nor anything in the center of the earth that was responsible. If you really want to judge the character of a man, look not at his great performances. Anyone may become a hero at one time or another. Watch a man do his most common actions. Those are indeed the things which tell you the real character of a great man. Great occasions awaken even the lowest human beings to some kind of greatness, but he alone is the really great man whose character is always great, the same wherever he may be. We are what our thoughts have made us, so take care about what you think. To succeed, you must have tremendous perseverance as well. I will drink the ocean, says the persevering soul. At my will, mountains will crumble. Have that sort of energy, the sort of will. Work hard and you will reach your goal. Let people say whatever they like. Stick to your own convictions, and rest assured the world will be at your feet. They say have faith in this fellow or that fellow, but I say have faith in yourself. That's the way. If you are pure, if you are strong, you, one man, are equal to the whole world. These are the beautiful words of Swami Vivekananda that will hopefully inspire you in the quest to evolve, learn, and to seek knowledge. In conclusion, I would like to leave you with 3 teachings of Swami Vivekananda to take forward in your lives today. It is all in the mind. Wherever you think that you will be, if you think yourself weak, weak you will be. If you think yourself strong, strong you will be. Follow the 3 P's: purity, patience, perseverance, and the 3 essentials to success, and all above, love. What Vedanta calls religion: to worship, to be pure, and to do good to others. The government of India declared 12th January, the birthday of Swami Vivekananda, as the National Youth Day in 1984. Since this was the event celebrated in India every year, and an effort to inspire the youth to rise to its values, principles, and beliefs that the great Swami Vivekananda lived by. May the teachings of Swami Vivekananda continue to empower and encourage us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Durgapersad, for the insightful talk and inspiration to reinvigorate each of our lives with the teachings of Swami Vivekananda and the call to serve our society as a form of worshipping the Lord in our fellow man. Our next speaker is Mr. Akshay Maharaj. Mr. Maharaj is a 5th-year medical student at the University of Pretoria. His inspiration for pursuing a career in the medical field was inspired by Swami Vivekananda's ideal that service to man is service to God. Mr. Maharaj will be presenting a detailed study on hygiene and general health, practical considerations in the current pandemic from a medical perspective underpinned by Swami Vivekananda's ideals.
Revered Swami Swat Madhavanandaji Maharaj, respected elders, sisters and brothers, Aum Namo Narayanaya. It's with great privilege that I address you today on a very important and special day as we celebrate the birth anniversary of Swami Vivekananda, which is also recognized as National Youth Day in India. I think this is quite fitting as Swamiji had a passion for investing in the youth because he understood their power as a driving force for social change and growth. I've been tasked with speaking about a very topical issue facing our country and our world. In an ideal situation, we would all be seated together and I would address you face to face. But sadly, current times do not allow for such. However, people say where there is a will, there is a way. And the Ramakrishna Center has had the willingness to continue God's work and ensure that our path of spiritual growth continues. And I, for one, am very grateful for that. In a day when you don't come across any problems, you can be sure that you are traveling in the wrong path. These were the words of Swami Vivekananda, and how fitting really for a situation such as ours. For all of us, being in a pandemic has been a real eye-opener. If we compare the lives we lived about a year ago to where we stand now, it's been quite a drastic and considerable change in the way we interact, the way we work, the way we socialize, and even the way we worship. We have surpassed the 90 million mark in terms of global COVID-19 infections. Hundreds of thousands are newly infected every day, and thousands more are dying. Bring it closer to home, and South Africa is currently experiencing a second wave of infections. Fears of a new variant, solid answers or plans about a vaccine rollout program has added a spanner to the works and has done nothing but created more fear, panic, and pessimism amongst our people. I think everyone here can say that they know at least one family member or friend that has been affected by this virus. As time goes on, the questions just seem to be piling on. What is the best way to protect yourself? How am I supposed to live like this? How do I stay motivated and healthy in such a dire situation? When will this all end? In reality, I cannot give you clear answers to all these questions, but by the end of my talk, I hope to have created some clarity in your mind about how to approach the next few months and some principles on how to stay motivated and calm, which are largely based on the teachings of Swami Vivekananda. This pandemic has put a major spotlight on our health in general, and it has in many ways forced people to become more aware of their health status, how they live, how they eat, and how they practice hygiene. If we can find no other optimism from this pandemic, then I think this is the one positive thing that we can take away from this. People have become more aware. Swami Vivekananda also spoke about pandemics and plagues and advised the people of Kolkata at the time on how to best protect themselves. In a health booklet published in 1898, Vivekananda emphasized that people should not panic. Maintaining personal hygiene and boosting your immunity to keep the pandemic at bay. Vivekananda also urged people to eat, pointing out that a weak health makes one more vulnerable to disease. Over 150 years later, and the same principles are still relevant in our pandemic. All the general principles of constant hand washing, mask wearing, and social distancing are still the best forms of protection from the virus. In situations such as these, it's important to take a proactive approach. Regularly taking vitamin D, zinc, and vitamin C are vital in boosting the immune system, should you be exposed. Other herbal remedies, such as ginger, honey, and turmeric, have been known to have anti-inflammatory properties, which can help any flu-like symptoms be kept at bay. All these hygiene principles that we preach have been spoken by Swamiji years ago, and is quite remarkable. While preparing for this talk, I was fascinated by the intelligence of Swami Vivekananda, especially for the times he lived in. I think people such as you and I do not understand the intellect and insight of Swamiji for his time. If I just take one aspect of medicine, being the concept of mental health. In medical history, it is said that the first book on mental health was written in the late 1800s by a German psychiatrist. Even though the concept of psychological disorders were defined at the time, just the mention of mental illness was a big taboo, and people were often ridiculed and mocked for having depression, anxiety disorders, mood disorders, diseases that were and still are highly prevalent in a society such as ours, full of various pressures and stresses. And it's only until the past decade or so where people have started to recognize how common mental illness actually is amongst our people. It has taken even greater significance at a time such as now, where people have been forced to isolate, socially distance, and limit their interactions with family, friends, and even work colleagues. The South African College of Applied Psychology released 2019 data stating 1 in 6 South Africans suffer from some form of mental illness. Many scientists have actually said that this will be an even greater pandemic that we will face as a society once COVID is a thing of the past. And I think the major driving force behind the increase in such illness is people not looking after their mental health. Now, what I mean by taking care of your mental health is something Swami Vivekananda already spoke about in the late 1800s when delivering addresses where he spoke about the importance of prayer and focusing one's mind. In his book on Raja Yoga, Swamiji talks about meditation and focusing one's thoughts on positivity as a means to control the mind. He says, and I quote, "Sit in a straight posture, and the first thing to do is to send a current of holy thought to all creation. Mentally repeat, let all beings be happy, let all beings be peaceful, let all beings be blissful. So do to the east, south, north, and west. The more you do that, the better you will feel. You will find at last that the easiest way to make ourselves healthy is to see that others are healthy. And the easiest way to make ourselves happy is to see that others are happy. After doing that, those who believe in God should pray. Not for money, not for health, not for heaven. Pray for knowledge and light. Every other prayer is selfish. Then the next thing to do is to think of your own body and see that it is strong and healthy. It is the best instrument you have. Think of it as being as strong as adamant, similar to a diamond, and that with the help of this body, you will cross the ocean of life. Freedom is never to be reached by the weak. Throw away all weakness. Tell your body that it is strong. Tell your mind that it is strong. And have unbounded faith and hope in yourself. Now, this is an excerpt from the book of Maharaj. These principles are still very relevant today and are some practical approaches we can take in times like these. Waking up in the morning, meditating, focusing on the positives we have, creating a space for happy thoughts, and telling yourself you're going to have a good day are just small things that can have a major impact on our mood and emotions as we tackle our daily challenges. If we fill our mind with the thoughts of the Lord, these blissful thoughts fill our mind and do not allow any negativity or anxiety to cross our minds, because we are only focused on that which keeps us strong. Swami Vivekananda emphasized the link between a healthy mind and a healthy body, especially in times like these. Swami wants to approach the situation with positive energy, optimism, and faith that we shall overcome this hurdle. While faith is a vital component of the healing process, it needs to be coupled with responsibility. This means that the practical aspects of hand washing, social distancing, and mask wearing are just as important in curbing the spread and the impact of the virus. I end with a quote from the complete works of Swami Vivekananda, when he said, "The sign of vigor, the sign of life, the sign of hope, the sign of health, the sign of everything that is good is strength. As long as the body lives, there must be strength in the body, strength in the mind, and strength in the hand." I wish you well and hope that you stay safe during these difficult times. Aum Namo Narayanaya.
Thank you, Mr. Maharaj, for that insightful talk. You have highlighted the need to take extra care and precautions during this pandemic, whilst providing hope to those that have been impacted by the pandemic. We are reminded of the unswerving direction given by Swami Vivekananda, who said that you must keep a strict eye on your health. Let everything else be subordinate to that. Our next speaker is Mrs Estelle Jugwanth. Mrs Jugwanth is a practicing attorney of the High Court of South Africa who specializes in civil litigation. She is an ardent devotee of Sri Ramakrishna and is actively involved in various aspects of the work conducted by the Johannesburg Subcenter. Mrs. Jugwanth will be presenting an in-depth study of the moral and ethical considerations in the current pandemic from a legal perspective, underpinned by Swami Vivekananda's ideals.
To our revered Swami Swatma Ramanandaji Maharaj, elders, brothers and sisters, and beloved children, Aum Namo Narayanaya. My topic today is moral and ethical considerations in the current pandemic, from a legal perspective, underpinned by Swami Vivekananda's ideals. I will first briefly deal with the legal aspects as relevant in South Africa, and then link this to relevant aspects of spiritual life as guided by the teachings of Swami Vivekananda. In any country that you live in, you have the moral and legal responsibility to follow the rules and regulations that have been promulgated by the government of that country. It follows that the same would apply to us in South Africa. Our government has a responsibility to promulgate laws which has the purpose, amongst other things, to regulate the relationship between the state and its citizens. The rules of law are generally governed by a sound sense of equality and justice, and in accordance with the country's constitution. In promulgating laws, the legislator must have the best interest of its citizens at heart, and the laws should not offend against general principles of fairness and morality. We currently live in a world that is facing a severe pandemic, and our government has put certain measures in place in an attempt to control the spread of the COVID-19 virus, as well as to assist the individuals that have been infected with the virus. It is my view, although some may differ with it, that in certain situations, for example, a state of emergency or a disaster, the Constitution allows for certain suspensions or limitations of a citizen's constitutional right. An example of such right is the limitation of a person's right to freedom. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, the government declared a state of disaster. The declaration and management of a state of disaster in South Africa is governed by the Disaster Management Act, the institutions and framework created thereunder, and any regulations lawfully and validly made thereunder. I do not intend to go into the finer details of this, except to state that in general terms the Act provides for an integrated and coordinated disaster management policy that focuses on preventing or reducing the risk of disaster, mitigating the severity of disasters, emergency preparations, rapid and effective response to disaster, and post-disaster recovery. We as citizens are legally, ethically, and morally obliged to diligently comply with these rules and regulations that have been placed on, even though some of our rights have been limited. As required by the legislation, the government has put together a committee to specifically deal with the difficulties that our country is facing due to COVID-19 and to find the most suitable solution to these difficulties for the betterment of our country and its citizens as a whole. You have noticed that once the regulations came into effect, a breach of these regulations attracted certain penalties, and these penalties were imposed to ensure that those that elected to breach them were punished in an endeavor to ensure that the pandemic did not go out of control and or did not endanger the life and property of other individuals within the state. Penalties would involve either the monetary payment of a fine or imprisonment or both. As people affected by the virus increased, the committee had to place further sanctions on us, as this was the most suitable solution in an attempt to decrease the number of infections. The Bill of Rights as institution provide us the right to healthcare to the extent that private hospitals are obliged to provide emergency medical treatment to patients, even if that patient does not have medical aid. The problem is that our healthcare system is under severe strain as there aren't enough resources available to combat the rate of new infections per day. Knowing this, we are even more so morally and ethically obliged to follow the rules that have been implemented by our government to reduce the rate of infections. Not only has the government imposed these rules and regulations, but has called upon each one of us to contribute in some way or the other to contain the pandemic. Let us now look at the life and teachings of Swami Vivekananda in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. Man is a spiritual being on an earthly journey. Swami Vivekananda had a strong conviction that man is basically a spirit evolving towards a divine destiny. His faith is expressed in his now famous dictum, "Each soul is potentially divine." The goal of life is to manifest this divinity by controlling nature within and without. In order to grow spiritually, man himself is governed by certain rules and regulations for his spiritual success. One such rule is that man should live morally and ethically. A brief overview of the life of Swami Vivekananda. Swamiji was born on Monday, 12 January 1863. His father, Vishwanath Datta, was an attorney at law in the Calcutta High Court. In his early childhood, Narendranath, later known as Swami Vivekananda, was rather restless and given to much fun and frolic, but at the same time, he had a great attraction for spiritual matters and would play at worshipping and meditating. Traits such as courage, empathy for the poor, and attraction towards wandering monks arose spontaneously in him. Even in childhood, Narendranath demanded convincing argument for every proposition. With these qualities of head and heart, he grew into a vigorous youth. At college, he studied and absorbed Western thought, and this caused him to develop a critical inquiry. His inborn tendency towards spirituality, his respect for ancient religious traditions and beliefs, and his argumentative nature, coupled with his sharp intellect, were at war with each other. In this predicament, Swamiji ultimately ended up meeting Krishna, who calmed his restless mind and assured him from his own experience that God exists. Gradually, Narendranath surrendered himself to the Master, and Sri Ramakrishna, with infinite patience, quietened the rebellious spirit of his young disciple and led him forth from doubt to certainty and from anguish to spiritual bliss. Under the guidance of Sri Ramakrishna, Narendranath learned the all-important principle in spiritual life, that being that God is all-pervasive, present everywhere. Sri Ramakrishna had given this experience to Narendranath, and Narendranath's doubt being dispelled. Sri Ramakrishna's realization that God is man and man is God, Shiva is Jiva and Jiva is Shiva, was firmly implanted in Narendranath's heart and mind. After Sri Ramakrishna's passing on in 1886, Narendranath and his brother disciples took the vow of sannyasa at Anandpur. During 1888 to 1890, Swami Vivekananda travelled the length and breadth of India. Wherever he went, it was not the important places and people that impressed him most. It was the terrible poverty and misery of the masses that caused his soul to burn in agony. It was then that he took the momentous decision to go to the West, to seek the help for the poor of India, and thus gave the shape to his life's mission. His cry to us is, "Alas, how can we have the heart to put a morsel into our mouths when our countrymen have not even enough to feed or clothe themselves? Let us go from village to village, devoting ourselves to the service of the poor. Let us, through the force of our character and spirituality and our austere living, convince the rich about their duties to the masses and get money and the means wherewith to serve the poor and distressed." He appeared at the Parliament of Religions in September 1893. His impact on the leading Western thinkers and put the Vedantic thoughts and principles on the world stage. On his return journey to India, he arrived in Colombo on the 15th of January 1897, where he received a hero's welcome. He delivered several powerful lectures to the people of India, calling upon them to recall their heroic spirit, the immortal Atman, and to rise en masse. In one of his lectures, he said, "My India, arise. Where is your vital force? In your immortal." At Madras, he delivered 5 lectures, one of which was a clarion call to throw away weakness and superstition, and to rise to build a new India. He emphasized that in India, the keynote of the whole national life was religion, a religion which preached the spiritual oneness of the whole universe. Fired with the spirit of these great Vedantic ideas, he formed the Ramakrishna mission in May 1897, whose aims and ideas were purely spiritual and humanitarian. When plague broke out in Calcutta in May 1898, he organized relief work with the help of the members of the monastery and lay disciples. The principle of service to man is worship of God was deeply etched in his heart and mind. The populace of Calcutta were at the time served without fear, and those rendering the service did so, taking due precautions, but not fearing whether they themselves might contact the plague. His spirit of service was uncompromising. He gave a universal and unique meaning to the concepts of service to man, ethics, and morality. Swami Vivekananda's version of ethics, not I, but thou. The vain ideas of individualism to which man clings have to be given up, according to Swami Vivekananda. You have to put yourself last and others before you. Swamiji says that the only definition that can be given of morality is that which is selfish is immoral, and that which is unselfish is moral. Therefore, we can conclude any action that takes us Godward and is unselfish is good and is our duty. Any action that takes us downward and is selfish is evil and is not our duty. Swamiji says further that virtue is that which tends to our improvement and vice to our degradation. The idea of Vedanta to Swamiji is to know man as he really is. According to him, the simple message of Vedanta is, if you cannot worship your brother man, the manifested God, how can you worship a God who is unmanifested? Furthermore, Swamiji concluded that in Vedanta, the idea is that there is nothing that is not God. He goes on to say that the only God to worship is the human soul in the human body. All animals are temples too, but man is the highest, the Taj Mahal of temples. If you cannot worship in that, no other temple will be of any advantage. Accordingly, Swamiji reasoned that the only way of getting our divine nature manifested is by helping others to do the same. If there is inequality in nature, still there must be an equal chance for all. Or, if greater for some and for some less, the weaker should be given more chances than the strong. The good live for others alone. The wise man should sacrifice himself for others. Swamiji was adamant that one can secure one's own salvation only by doing good to others. There is no other way whatsoever. Against these fundamental Vedantic thoughts and messages of Swami Vivekananda, it leaves us with no doubt that each of us has a moral, ethical, legal, and religious duty to conform to the rules and regulations imposed by the government to ensure that the COVID-19 pandemic is vigorously contained, that the disaster is properly managed by the government and us, that as good Vedantins we do all in our power to assist in all circumstances to bring relief to the afflicted and the suffering, to contribute to the welfare of those who have lost their jobs and means of livelihood, contribute to our centers in cash or kind for all relief programs which are directly in keeping with Swami Vivekananda's ideal. To do all the above with the underlying knowledge that service to man is worship of God. Stay safe, be happy, and pray hard during these trying times. Hari Om, that's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Jugwanth. In line with the teachings of Swami Vivekananda, you have reminded us that when we take proper precautions to prevent the spread of the virus during the pandemic, we are in fact serving our fellow man and country. In addition, when we comply with the guidelines which regulate our conduct during this pandemic, it is in fact not only our moral duty, but our legal duty as well. Our next speaker is Mr. Mihir Haribai. Mr. Haribai is a third-year actuarial science student at the University of Cape Town and lifelong devotee of Sri Ramakrishna. Mr. Haribai will be presenting a study of the economic considerations of COVID-19 and ways to cope with financial distress based on Swami Vivekananda's teachings.
Swami Vivekananda was one of the greatest thinkers to ever walk the earth. He made significant contributions to almost every major field of study, for example, religion, science, philosophy, and economics. In fact, I would argue that economics is really where Swamiji's ideas had the... See, very early on in Swamiji's life, he toured India to see firsthand the challenges and hardships that the people of India faced. He concluded that the downtrodden, poverty-stricken state of the Indian people was the result of a lack of self-belief. Most people did not and still do not believe that they can improve and, of course, succeed. And this was and still is the main reason people do not progress in life. So Swami Vivekananda devised a two-step plan to eliminate this lack of progress. Firstly, people needed to learn faith in themselves through Vedanta and, of course, the message of Swami Vivekananda, which is that all power is within us and that each of us is potentially divine. Second, of course, is a secular education to improve the economic conditions of the people. Now, it's important to understand that of the two steps, faith in ourselves is paramount because without self-confidence, it's impossible for us to progress in life, even with an outstanding secular education. And according to Swamiji, it's not even possible to believe in God unless we first believe in ourselves. Thereafter, if enough people have faith in themselves, combined with an education, the entire economy is uplifted. If COVID has taught us anything, it's that all sectors of the economy are connected. If just one sector performs badly, it has far-reaching consequences for almost every other sector in the entire economy. But how exactly does one sector perform well? Well, if we break down any economic sector into its constituent parts, we'll find that every economy is made up of hundreds of millions of individuals. And sectors with more productive individuals are the ones that perform the best. And this single sector can uplift the entire economy. In other words, a large collection of individuals working optimally towards something greater than themselves has the potential to benefit hundreds of millions of people globally. So just by arriving at work and performing well at work or even at school, we are in fact benefiting many people indirectly. But obviously this is much easier said than done. In fact, various studies from the Harvard Business Review have shown that global stress levels are at an all-time high, even before COVID. And as a result, many workers were and still are suffering from depression and burnout, which impacts our ability to productively contribute to society and just generally lead fulfilled lives. Swami Vivekananda preached that the main cause of all of our miseries, stress included, is fear. And we've all been in stressful situations, and lots of people around the world really struggle to perform optimally under stress. So in order to achieve our highest ambitions, we have to learn to cope with stress, to cope with fear. According to Swamiji, the only religion that ought to be taught is the religion of fearlessness. But for us to learn to cope with fear, we first have to understand where fear comes from. Towards the latter part of the previous century, two Israeli psychologists, Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, came up with a theory that explains how we form thoughts. Simply put, they stated that our brains subconsciously and quickly come up with stories that link events with one another. Sometimes there may be no relationship between the events that we're linking, but the brain convinces us that this relationship exists using some form of narrative. And based on the ending of this story, it's how we should act. So how does that cause fear? Well, there are two basic kinds of story, right? Stories with sad endings and stories with happy endings. Once again, I'd like to emphasize that it's our brains that come up with these stories, which means we control the endings. So if we tell ourselves a story with a sad ending, the result is fear and stress because nobody likes stories with sad endings. And if we tell ourselves stories with a happy ending, then there's a converse effect. We see a reduction in fear and a reduction in stress because everyone likes stories with happy endings. So when Swami Vivekananda preaches fearlessness and boldness, he's in effect preaching positivity. And Stanford has proved this to be true. Research has shown that contrary to popular belief, there is no correlation between success in anything and intelligence and IQ. But there is a correlation between success and boldness. And in this context, boldness means always believing that things will go our way. And if things don't go our way, that we will still be okay. In other words, telling ourselves stories with happy endings. Now, all of this sounds very nice in theory, but anyone who's been in a stressful situation knows that it's quite difficult to imagine a fictional series of events in which things miraculously go our way. So how do we apply this? Well, sports fans around the world will be intimately familiar with the name Rafael Nadal. He's one of the greatest tennis players in history, and he is the greatest clay court player of all time. And his coach, who also happens to be his uncle, Tony Nadal, said that a key component of his nephew's success was building a strong character. Swami Vivekananda said something similar. He said, we want that education by which character is formed, strength of mind is increased, the intellect is expanded, and by which one can stand on one's own feet. But how do we do that? Well, according to Tony Nadal, the first thing he taught his nephew was how to accept reality. Because he reasoned that once we accept what is, with all the difficulties and all of the things stacked against us, we free up a lot of mental space and energy to find a way around our obstacles. So step one, accept the situation for what it is. Staying with athletes, step two borrows some knowledge from sports psychology. Sports psychologists have identified two mindsets that people adopt when faced with stressful situations. The first is called a threat state. And that's obviously not the state that we want to be in. In the threat state, we see the arteries and the veins constrict, which means that there's less oxygen going to the brain and the body, and as a result, reaction times decrease. And one is more likely to make poorer decisions. However, when we face a stressful situation and go into what is called a challenge state, we see the arteries and the veins expand and increase oxygen and glucose levels around the body, and this allows for faster reaction times and better decision making. So, the million-dollar question, how do we enter the challenge state? Well, the prescribed method is to picture an old-fashioned dual weight scale. And on the one side, label it threat, and the other side, challenge. On the threat side, list all the things that will prevent us from achieving the bruise to our ego should we fail, the fear of embarrassment, the ramifications of failing, COVID, etc. And on the challenge side, list all the things that will help us achieve our goals. For example, family support despite the outcome of the event, the work that you've put in to achieve your goal, your education, your own natural ability, the grace of the Holy Trio, etc. And try to ensure that the challenge side weighs more than the threat side, that there's more things going for the challenge side than the threat side. So step two in this process is to list all the things in our favor, either mentally or to write them down. The cause of fear and the solution of fear, I hope you see, is in fact linked. For example, we can't accept reality for what it is if we're constantly telling ourselves we aren't good enough and we're going to fail, because that leads to stress. And if we can't force ourselves to see all the things that are in our favor, we won't be able to move into a challenged state. So all of that falls under part 1 of Swamiji's economic upliftment plan. Part 2 of this plan is, of course, secular education and working. Now, there's already been quite a lot said about this topic of education, so I'll only really add 2 things that can be applied to school, work, and just our general day-to-day lives. First, as mentioned earlier, it's important to exercise and eat healthily and only focus on one thing at a time. But focusing on work can be very difficult at times, and the reason why is because focusing on something else that's not work. For example, the addictive TV series we're watching, or what we're going to do when we're finished working. And we call those things distractions. Interestingly, the key to focus is actually distraction. See, in 1972, there was a famous experiment conducted called the Stanford Marshmallow Experiment, in which children of about 5 to 6 years of age were presented with a marshmallow, physically in front of them, by a researcher, but were told that if they didn't eat the marshmallow in front of them after the researcher left the room, then the child could have 2 marshmallows when the researcher returned to the room. Now, this was obviously done individually, so for a period of about 10 minutes, the child was alone in the room with the 1 marshmallow, and the researchers could observe which of the children ate their 1 marshmallow and which resisted. Thereafter, the team then looked at how these same children progressed in life about 10 years later. And the children that had resisted the temptation to eat the marshmallow in front of them had higher SAT scores, better grades, and were able to participate in more extracurriculars. So the moral of the story here is not to eat fewer sweets. It's that the ability to distract oneself from something instantly pleasant in favor of something pleasant in the future is a key part of success and an important component of focus. The second and final point that I'm going to make today is one relating once again to tennis. This time to a player by the name of Novak Djokovic, who many believe is set to become the greatest men's tennis player of all time. Djokovic is a case of what is called marginal improvements. See, in everything in life, whether it's a large project or at work or a major assignment, it can be broken down into very small, manageable chunks. In the case of tennis is made up of matches, which are made up of 3 to 5 sets of 6 games each, and each of these games is made up of individual points. So, towards the earlier part of Djokovic's career from 2004 to 2005, he won 49% of his matches and 49% of the points that he played in those matches. From 2006 to 2010, he won 79% of his matches and 52% of all the points that he played at that time. And finally, from 2011 to 2016, he won 90% of all of his matches and 55% of the points he played. So in other words, the key to secular success is not focusing on doing well at all the small components that make up a task. Swamiji's motto was that one should act for one's own good and for the good of the world. From this, we see that to improve the macroeconomy, we must focus first on the microeconomy. By improving our attitudes, we directly and indirectly improve the circumstances of others. And we must aim, especially during the pandemic, to help as many people as we can in any small way, either through answering a question at work or helping someone who's struggling with a project or assignment, or even just passing on the knowledge that we've gained through our own experiences. Swami Vivekananda stated that whenever any religion succeeds, it must have economic value. Thousands of similar sects will be struggling for power, but only those who meet the real economic problem will have it. The real economic problems today are things like stress, depression, and a lack of faith in ourselves to improve our circumstances and the circumstances of others around us. This lack of faith results in a low productivity, which affects firms around the world and thereby entire economies. Only once we achieve our own highest potentials begin to progress. And through the grace and teachings of Swamiji, it is possible to progress and improve not only ourselves, but also the lives of all of those around us. So in the words of Swami Vivekananda, the mass of mankind never made a move unless the economy was involved. Hari Om, that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Haribai, for this thought-provoking paper. You have reminded us of the teachings of Swami Vivekananda in that without self-confidence, it's impossible for us to progress in life. In addition, we take inspiration from Swamiji's guidance that if enough people have faith in themselves, combined with education, then the entire economy and country can be uplifted, even from the effects of this pandemic. Our next item in tonight's seminar is a performance by Mr. Shivraj Natraj. Mr. Natraj is an internationally renowned vocal artist hailing from Bangalore. He is one of the rarest kinds of beatboxers in the world, wherein he mixes beatboxing and the traditional South Indian vocal percussive art form called konakol. One of Mr. Natraj's many international achievements is performing at the World Vocal Conference held in Ravenna, Italy in October 2017. He was one of only 2 Indians invited to provide a lecture and demonstration on Indian melody and rhythm. Mr. Natraj will now provide us with a musical rendition.
Namaste everybody, Jai Ramakrishna. My name is Shivraj Natraj, and today I will be presenting something called konakol beatboxing. So first, what is konakol? Konakol is a language that is used in vocal percussion in Carnatic music, which is South Indian classical music. You would have heard of the instrument called tabla, right? The percussion instrument. So the lessons that are taught in tabla are called bowls, and similarly in South Indian rhythm or Carnatic music, in rhythm in Carnatic music, we have instruments like the mridangam or the khanjira, and all the lessons that are played or any structure that you want to play on stage. If you want to convey that to another artist, you can't always play the instrument, right? If you see a mridangam, it's as big as a dholak or a pakhavaj, so it's really huge, and you can't keep bringing out the instrument and playing it all the time. So that is where we have this language called konakol, which makes it very easy to express those structures or express any rhythmic ideas or lessons that you're taught. And this art has been there for centuries in our Indian tradition. And beatboxing. Beatboxing is a relatively newer art form. It came up with the rise of the genre called hip hop, and it is an art of using your mouth to mimic the drums, and then it built up with various sounds. Like for example, so everything I did right now is only through my mouth, and that is a basic example of beatboxing. So this art of beatboxing mixed with konakol, a simple example for konakol will be takadim takajano takadim dim takadim dim takadim 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 takajano takadim takajano adimi ajano takadimi ajano tangadimi ajano takadimi takajano takadimi takadimi takajano ta. So that is what konakol sounds like. Mixing these two, the ancient art of konakol and the modern art of beatboxing, is what I do or I specialize in. And the funny thing is, how it came to be was when I was in Ramakrishna Vidyarthi Mandiram in Bangalore, and the warden was Sri Swami Swatma Ramanandaji Maharaj. He was the warden, and he told me when I presented this art of beatboxing, which was completely Western in my mind then, and he told me that he would give me a chance to perform in front of ashram devotees, and he told me in a way that it can be presented in an audience like this. So that is when I got the idea of mixing the mridangam that I had learned for like 5 years, then it's 8 years now, 8 or 9 years now, and mixing what I learned in classical music with beatboxing, and that's how this came to be. So before moving on to that, I'll show different aspects of beatboxing. So first one, I showed you the simple beat. It goes like just like the drums. Then you have something called SFX, that is sound effects. And there are lots of sounds that many beatboxers across the world do. A few of them I have tried and I can do it. Some examples are, for example, let's take the sound of a water drop falling on the surface of water. So, now we'll mix this with a beat. Now let's take three different. First one is beatboxing. The second one is the water drop. And the third sound is a bass sound, like a bass guitar, which is like. And now the three sounds together in one beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that was the water droplet. Now another SFX that I love to do is that of a helicopter that is starting from the ground up and then it goes into the sky. So it goes like. Let's add that to the beat. Thank you. So that was the sound of a helicopter if mixed in a beat. Then another one is if you watched F1 car racing, right? So those F1 cars that go, it's very high pitched sounds that they have. So we start the car and then it increases in speed, and that's how it sounds if I do it with the mouth. That's the passing of the F1 car. Reverse. So that was of a car racing beat. Then Now another effect scenario. Let us take. So let's say we are outside a club. This wouldn't be the ideal platform to actually go into a club. But let's just, of course, there are clubs across the world, and there are people who go to it. So let's say we go to a club and the door is closed. Of course, there's a bouncer outside, security, big hefty man, and now you hear music that's going on inside the club, right? You hear it, but from outside the door, and the door is closed. So how it will sound, and when the door is open, how it will sound. So let's say I am the bouncer. I'm hefty. So yeah, jokes apart. So I am the bouncer, and then I open the door. As I open the door, how the sound will change. So now with the door closed, check. So that was how a door affects how the sound is heard from when it's closed and when the door is open, how different the sound goes. So that was a quick demonstration of that sound effect. Then let's go to an interesting segment that I do. And I love music. It must be pretty evident now. And I have been a student of Carnatic vocals also from my father Sri Nataraj Pushpavanam since I was like 5 years old, and I have been exposed to a lot of different kinds of music from different parts of the world, and some of them I was really enthralled by and was able to reproduce with my mouth. So compiling all of this, I have come up with something that I like to call a tour of the world, let's say. So we start from India, we start from the northern part of India, let's move westwards and then come back to the Middle East, that is the Gulf countries or Arab countries, and then come back to South India. So regional exploration of music with only the voice. So let's start from Punjab, which is in northern India. So what is the most famous dance form in Punjab? I'm pretty sure you all know. It's the Bhangra. So if the Bhangra was done just through the mouth, how it sounds. Remix. Let's add some music. Remix. So that was Punjab. Then we'll go to Europe and let's say Netherlands. Netherlands is the country of all EDM, dance music or club music. So how that goes. put your hands up in the air. House music. So that was the clubbing ambience in Europe. A lot of it is stereotype. Just enjoy it as it is. Then let's go to somewhere in the Caribbean islands, in near the continent of the Americas, both. I think it's closer to South America. So the Caribbean islands, reggae music. So something like this with just the mouth. Da 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 one is in the one da 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 one da da one is in the one yeah, please man. Yeah, please. So that was a Caribbean ambience all through the voice. Then we Gulf countries or the Arab region. Put it on the beat. Assalamu alaikum. Then we come finally to South India, where I am right now, and here specifically in these Devi temples or Maramman temples, we call it here. There we have the specific instrument that is called the urmi, and the kind of beat that is there, a lot of people colloquially call it tapanguchi. So the instrument is very interesting. It's called the urmi. It's huge, and you wear it like around your neck, and then you play it like a dhol. But the thing is, you can pitch bend it. Like the bass part of the instrument, it goes like any Tamil music, famous Tamil music you would have heard like recently. They'll have this sound. So the beat goes like. So that was the tour across the world. There are a lot more places, but maybe sometime later. Now coming to the main part, or the part that I do specifically, or it gives me identity as a unique beatboxer, is Konakol beatboxing. So how I mix that. Tantakadim, dim tatak dim tatak dim taragidon ta dim tatak dim tatak dim taragidon tak dim tatak dim tatak dim taragidon tak dim tatak dim di takadiku tadigina ton takadiku tadigina ton takadiku tadigina taga takadiku tadigina ton takadiku tadigina tadigina ton ta tadigina tatigina tatigina Thank you so much. I would like to thank Ramakrishna Mission South Africa, all the members that took all the pains to get this together, and all the meetings and most importantly Swami Swatma Ramanandaji Maharaj for giving me this opportunity. I am absolutely pleased and honored to be able to present what little I know on this two art forms on such a pristine occasion. I would like to conclude my performance by my prayers to the Holy Trinity. Namaste. Jai Ramakrishna.
Thank you, Mr. Natraj, for that inspiring and uplifting musical rendition. As an artist, your music has been transformed into a form of worship. We are reminded of Swami Vivekananda, who said that music is the highest art, and to those who understand, is the highest worship. Our next item on the program is the Online Hinduism for Children Classes Awards. We are pleased to advise that online classes for the year 2020 included children from Germany, India, and South Africa. We will be awarding 2 certificates for registered children of the class of 2020. The first award is the Certificate of Participation. This award is for children that regularly attended the online Sunday classes. The second award is the Certificate of Achievement. This is a special award for all children who regularly submitted their project work and was of a high quality. For the Certificate of Participation, we have a total of 44 registered children that attended classes. The names are as follows: Arun Govinda, Arushi Ramatar, Arya Ramatar, Arya Sukraj, Ashish Daya, Aditi Durgapersad, Agastya P. Kumar, Amal Ramdani, Anjali Jairam, Arve Ramsarup, Arya Kundal Ram, Ashav Mizra, Avani Chandar, Ayan Ramsarup, Deb Arti Chakraborty, Diya Hariganesh, Diana Singh, Dilip Bhatt, Diya Jayadev, Dulshan Bihari, Garvita Singh, Harsha Vardhan, Ivana Naidu, Karuna Sukraj, Kirti Durgapersad, Laranya Jalasar, Medha Bodraj, Niranjana Vardhan, Piyusha Bihari, Rakal Maharaj, Rohan Jairam, Roshan Daya, Sai Suhas, Shashwati Shantan Reddy, Shivani Jalasar, Siddharth Jairam, Sayon Naidu, Sohan Mizra, Suvan Kundalram, Yuvir Mizra, Vian Govender, Vidya Chandar, Vidya Bodraj, and Vivek Moli. For the special award, the Certificate of Achievement, we have a total of 23 registered children that obtained this award. The names are as follows: Arushi Ramatar, Arya Ramatar, Arya Sukraj, Aditi Durgapersad, Agastya P. Kumar, Amal Ramdani, Anjali Jairam, Arve Ramsarup, Avani Chandar, Ayan Ramsarup, Dulshan Bihari, Harsha Vardhan, Karuna Sukraj, Laranya Jalasar, Medha Bodraj, Piyusha Bihari, Rohan Jairam, Roshan Daya, Shivani Jalasar, Siddharth Jairam, Vidya Chandar, and Vidya Bodraj. Congratulations and well done to all the children of the 2020 Hinduism for Children's classes. Please note, registration for 2021 online Hinduism for Children classes is now open. Kindly send an email to johannesburg@ramakrishna-phoenix.org.za for further details.
Purnamidam Purnat
Namo Narayanaya. We thank you all for joining us for this evening seminar, and we pray that you have found this National Youth Day celebration inspiring and spiritually uplifting. We would like to thank Revered Swami Swatma Ramananda for his spiritual leadership and guidance in making tonight's celebration of National Youth Day a resounding success. Kindly take note of the following announcements. The Johannesburg Sub-Center has embarked on a milestone project to build an ashrama complex in the name of our great master, Sri Ramakrishna. We are currently attending to the rezoning of the land, appointing service providers for specialist work, and in the year ahead will prioritize fundraising activities. If you would like to participate by offering your skills in any of these activities related to this project, please send us a message with your details either on the live chat or by emailing the Johannesburg Sub-Center on johannesburg@ramakrishna-phoenix.org.za. The Johannesburg Sub-Center will be hosting an online program commemorating the 158th birth anniversary of Sri Swami Vivekananda on Thursday, 4th February from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. The program includes peace chants, puja, devotional singing, talks delivered by Revered Swami Shada Prabhananda, Revered Swami Swatma Ramananda, and Aarti. The Johannesburg Sub-Center hosts the following classes conducted by our Revered Swami Swatma Ramananda. On Monday evenings from 6 p.m. is the Science of Worship classes. On Tuesdays from 6 p.m. is the Viveka Chudamani classes. Classes on the Bhagavad Gita are held on Wednesday and Saturday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Morning classes on Sri Ramakrishna, the Great Master, are held on Thursday, Fridays, Sundays, and Monday mornings from 6:30 to 8 a.m. The Hinduism for Children's classes are held on Sunday mornings from 9:30 to 10:15 a.m. The weekly satsangs are held every Sunday afternoon from 4:15 to 5 p.m. All classes will resume from 18th January. The Johannesburg Sub-Center has been actively providing COVID-19 welfare services to indigent families, hospices, and needy homes since the commencement of South Africa's national lockdown. Over the past year, 5,792 beneficiaries were supported with approximately 20 tons of items, which included fruits and vegetables, rice, flour, maize and porridge, general household grocery items, and in addition, 1,120 masks, hygiene soap, and sanitary towels, as well as various other items. If you would like more information on any of these projects and activities, please send us a message with your details either on the live chat or by emailing the Johannesburg Sub-Center on johannesburg@ramakrishna-phoenix.org.za. On behalf of Revered Swami Swatma Ramananda and the officials of the Johannesburg Sub-Center, we humbly thank you for joining us for this evening's National Youth Day celebration and look forward to your company for our online classes and upcoming online programs throughout the year. Om Shanti 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 Om.
Once, in a divine ecstasy, Ramakrishna uttered, "Service to man is service to God." Vivekananda expounded, "You may invent an image through which to worship God, but a better image already exists, the living man. You may build a temple in which to worship God, and that may be good, but a better one, a much higher one, already exists, the human body. 1897, just 2 weeks after the inception of Ramakrishna Mission, Bengal was in the grip of famine. Swami Akhandananda organized the first relief camp at Murshidabad. This organized relief made a significant mark in the history of Ramakrishna Mission. For more than 100 years, Ramakrishna Mutt and Ramakrishna Mission have been conducting various relief activities without any distinction and have enlightened the world to show an extraordinary ritual of worship. Ramakrishna Mutt and Ramakrishna Mission run hospitals, dispensaries, and mobile medical units in various cities, towns, and even in several remote villages. Millions of people are benefited by this service every year. This twin organization is also involved in imparting education through formal and non-formal centers, development of rural and tribal areas. The organization also engages in disseminating spiritual and cultural values through publication of books and journals, conducting spiritual retreats and counseling. The multifarious activities of the twin organization are coordinated and supervised from the headquarters. After entering the main gate, while walking towards the Ramakrishna temple, the headquarters of the Ramakrishna Mutt and Ramakrishna Mission is situated on the right side of the asphalted road. Besides, the Belur Mutt campus also houses a charitable dispensary, Palli Mangal showroom, Veda Vidyalaya, seminary, the probationers' training center for novices. In this training center, the novices are put into touch with the traditions of the order, along with systematic instructions in the scriptures and philosophy. Behind the Ramakrishna temple is the Mutt complex. This complex includes two of the earliest buildings. The Mutt office looks after worship in the temples, festivals, maintenance of the premises, and distribution of sacramental food. Right in front of this complex is a courtyard. Once, after meditating in the shrine, Swami Vivekananda walked back and forth in this courtyard and whispered loud enough to be heard. If there were another Vivekananda, he would have understood what Vivekananda has done. And yet, how many Vivekanandas shall be born in time? In the eastern end of the courtyard is a mango tree that has existed from the time the land was purchased. This was one of Swami Vivekananda's favorite spots. This tree came to be known as Swamiji's mango tree. On the northern side of the mango tree are steps leading to the old shrine upstairs. In the early hours of the morning, the prayer would begin here with the sound of the conch shell. The monks and devotees would gather here every day to attend the Mangalarati of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna was worshipped in this shrine till the inauguration of the new temple in 1938. The picture of Sri Ramakrishna was placed here later on. The room on the right was originally maintained as Sri Ramakrishna's bedroom. In this room, Swami Vivekananda entered into deep meditation for 3 hours on the day he passed away. Things used by Swami Shivananda were placed here after the new temple was built. Swami Shivananda was the second president of the Ramakrishna order. On the southern side of this room is a veranda. Once, Swami Vivekananda, in a highly awakened state of consciousness, was seen pacing the stretch of the veranda.
तथापि मम सर्वस्व राम कमललोचन.
He was like a valorous soul guarding Sri Ramakrishna. Outside the shrine, on the landing of the staircase, a small wooden lattice leads to a terrace. Swami Vivekananda used to visit the shrine through this terrace. The building adjacent to the old shrine is replete with sacred memories of almost all the monastic disciples of Sri Ramakrishna who lived here. Swami Vivekananda lived on the first floor of this building. Objects and articles used by him at different places have been collected and preserved here. On 4th of July 1902, Swami Vivekananda passed away in this room. He had once told one of his brother disciples that he would remain in this room in subtle body even after his passing away.